Good evening and welcome to the May 26, 2026 Broomfield City Council meeting. Information on how to watch, attend, and participate, as well as agendas, minutes, and recordings can be found on Broomfield's website at broomfield.org/council meetings. Public comment is welcome in person or on the phone. Instructions for calling in are available on the council meetings webpage. Public comment will be limited to 90 minutes total per item. The first 1 through 15 participants in the queue have 3 minutes to speak. The next 16 through 25 have 2 minutes. And if time remains, the next 26 plus participants have 1 minute to speak. For our hard of hearing residents present, we have wireless headsets available in the back of the council chambers from our AV team. The city council regular meeting is called to order. Councilmember Anderson and Councilmember Brown are absent. Councilmembers Peterson, McKenzie are attending remotely. So there are 8 council members in attendance and a quorum of the council is present. We begin this meeting by acknowledging that we gather on the ancestral and unceded lands of the Arapaho, Cheyenne, Ute, and other Native peoples. Indigenous peoples have cared for this land for generations and continue to maintain deep cultural and spiritual ties to it. As the city and county of Broomfield, we recognize the responsibility to honor this legacy and in the enduring presence of Native communities. May this acknowledgement inspire action that fosters greater understanding, truth, and respect for Indigenous peoples. Will everyone please rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. There are some seats in the front for those of you who would like to sit. Nobody wants to sit in the first 2 rows. Okay. Well, in an effort to keep order for tonight's meeting, I ask council members to limit their comments to 5 minutes. If council members are given an opportunity to speak for a second time, they should limit their comments to 2 minutes. We'll plan on a 10-minute break at approximately 8 p.m. We'll begin with council's review and approval of this evening's agenda. Council may add or remove items from the consent agenda, or council may revise the order of business for the meeting. Does any member of the council have any comments or questions regarding this evening's agenda? Are there any objections to this agenda being approved? Being none, the agenda is approved. Before we jump into tonight's agenda, I'm proud to share that Broomfield was recently recognized as the safest mid-sized city in America in a new national study. I know. Out of more than 300 cities evaluated nationwide, Broomfield stood out for its exceptionally low violent and property crime rates, low traffic fatality rate, and strong community safety measures. In fact, the study reported violent crime rates of just 1.48 incidents per 1,000 people and property crime rates of 19 per 1,000 residents, both below the national average. So the report also highlighted Broomfield as the only city evaluated to receive a FEMA natural disaster risk rating of very low, reflecting our community's resilience, preparedness, and overall quality of life. This recognition speaks to the dedication of our public safety teams, city staff, community partners, and our residents who all work together to make Broomfield such a safe, welcoming, and exceptional place to live and raise a family. So let's hear it for us. And on to our next item with our special guests in attendance. Thank you all so much for coming. We are honoring the Legacy High School Winter Percussion Ensemble. They revived 5 years ago after a decade-long hiatus, and they have earned the state championship every year since 2022. This year, the 37-member ensemble won the Scholastic Open Class Gold Medal at the Rocky Mountain Percussion Association State Championships on April 4th, 2026 at the Denver Coliseum with their show Twisted. Congratulations. We're so proud of you. The group then advanced to the World Championships in Dayton, Ohio, held April 16th through 18th. The winter percussion group is made up of a wide range of musicians and grade levels from the Legacy High School music program. I lost my spot. It was right there. Where is it? Okay, the group is open to all music students who are dedicated and willing to learn. This year's group was made of freshmen through seniors, featuring percussionists and horn players trained in percussion performance. Their productions combine marching and grounded percussion instruments, choreography, dance, theater, props, and a large custom vinyl tarp to create a dynamic visual and musical performance, which we're going to get a sample of. The award-winning band program is led by Dr. Brian Ebert and Mr. Trey Tafoya, while the Winter Percussion Ensemble is directed by Dave Marvin and Kathy Marvin. Will the team representatives please come up to the podium and introduce yourselves? Who's speaking for y'all? I imagine it's one of the Marvins.
I don't have much to add to that, but I would like to introduce our ensemble to you all. If you guys could stand, please. I think we have almost everybody here, but these students are very dedicated students. They have a lot of practice times that they are required, plus keeping up with their schoolwork and, of course, their home duties as well. So we're very proud of them, of their dedication, and we would like to sincerely say thank you to the council for inviting us here to be recognized on our state championship this year. So thank you very much for having us.
Congratulations. We're so proud of you. Thank you for bringing such recognition to Broomfield. Let's give you another round. So are we going to play the video now? We have a video.
Sure.
Okay. Here we go. You get to witness it yourselves.
An introduction.
Pause.
Sorry, I was just gonna let you know that we've done all things kind of twisted. So props, body positions, some of the music chordal structures are twisted. So hopefully that'll kind of give you an idea of what our show is about.
Love it. Thank you. See why y'all won. That was amazing. And I love the dissonance that you created that truly went with the theme. Well, we do allow public comment, and if any of you would like to say anything, no pressure. As I said, you're welcome to go up and speak. And if anyone from the public would like to comment on this, you're welcome as well. If not, oh, we have somebody.
Yeah, so my name's Jaron Whitaker, and this season was my junior year at Legacy, and I'm usually a horn player, so percussion is not my main thing. But I've done this for 2 seasons now, and I only really do it for one reason, and that's just because I love like the environment. It's so different from anything else that we do and we offer, and like competitively, it's just so cool the opportunities we get, like getting to go to world championships, and then like community wise too, it's like a lot more tight knit, and so you get to work with like everybody in every aspect of it, and it's just like I don't know, it's a pretty unparalleled thing that we do, so I just enjoy it. And
Well, you're definitely not alone. There's a lot of other folks that enjoy it too. Would any of my colleagues like to make any remarks? Councilmember Cohen.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm looking out at your shirts and I have about 6 of them at home because my son played in the Legacy Marching Band for 4 years. I will note they won state championship every year.
Legacy's good.
And so I have the pit crew shirt too that parents wore. I think in marching band, the parents had to get you on the field. I think you have to do everything in winter percussion, if I remember correctly, because my son did winter percussion at Mountain Range because there wasn't a legacy one at that time. So it's really great that we have a legacy program now. And I think Mr. Ebert was with the school when my son was in the program. And I know Mr. Stansbury was the director at the time, and he was a taskmaster. And so winter percussion was a creative outlet to release all that our creativity in the winter percussion program. So congratulations. I wish everybody could really sense the sound when you're actually in the auditorium, when you guys are playing. The video doesn't quite catch it, but it's also just your emotion, your music, but also just your presence is amazing. So congratulations. Thank you.
Councilmember Twist.
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, congratulations. I know how much work y'all have put into this, and it is well-deserved. I am in awe of Legacy Band as a family on the other side from Councilmember Cohen. I have an 8th grader, soon to be 9th grader, who is joining y'all, and y'all are intense. I love it. It's amazing. And keep up the good work. I can't wait to see what you do next. Thank you.
Councilmember Delgadillo.
Thank you, Mayor. And yes, congratulations to you all. I'm sure that took a lot of additional rehearsals. So I was not a band person. Forgive me for being a string instrument player. I was a violinist and violist and played through the University Symphony. But yeah, I know how many extra rehearsals this kind of thing takes, and it's really incredible that you guys did that. I'll also say it's got to be crazy hard to keep time while you guys are walking around like that and hearing all the reverb from everything. And so you got to keep that internal metronome instead of being able to depend on what you're hearing, because once you hear it, it's already too late, right? The echo, you're not in time if you do that. Again, as a string instrument player, I was always a little more loosey-goosey with time as opposed to you percussionists, but I'm very impressed by that, very impressed by your ability to keep time and do things like that. So well done, congratulations.
Mm-hmm. Councilmember Henkel.
Thank you. Good job, Legacy students. I used to live right next to Legacy over in Stone Ridge, and we would just go over there and listen to the marching band, and it was our entertainment for our children, quite honestly. It was the cheapest entertainment we had. Tonight, I was waiting for you all to clap all at once and like start some sort of beat going on. But yeah, no, my daughter's Emmy Henkel. She's a junior at Legacy. She played percussion in middle school. And then she's a swimmer now. That's what she does twice a day, even before school and after school. But I know what it takes to really put in the effort, and parents too. If you're here tonight, I applaud your efforts too. There's a lot of driving, there's a lot of standing around, and also just knowing behind the scenes, like the struggles of where they've been and where they're going. And I think that's really important as parents to really navigate the mental health part of it too. I think sometimes we struggle with certain things during school, and that might be your outlet, or you're struggling with what you're doing after school, and then other places could be an outlet. So I really appreciate you all being here tonight. I did have one question about the competition, if you want to come back up again. I wanted to see how you all are graded. I don't understand how they exactly make you. Oh, we've got the t-shirt. Because there's a lot behind the scenes, I'm sure, that we just don't know. Like, I had a college football player, I have a swimmer. I don't know everything about that. So teach us a little bit on how they're being graded.
Yeah, we don't really know how we're judged. Yeah, just kidding. There will be, for example, at state championships and then at world championships. My name is Dave, by the way. Sorry. We have 8 judges. It's a double panel. So there are 4 different categories they're looking at. And so they'll look at the effect. So it's kind of the what and the how. Each judge has that. And then those pairs are averaged. So in theory, not one judge can really bump you or really hurt you. Doesn't always work out that way, but that's kind of the idea of it. So those are really some of the best in the world at what we do that have been doing it for years and years. And they judge all season long. There are over 300 groups that compete in what we do nationally. And those judges just in our class. Yeah. And by the way, I wanted to say, if you don't get the chance, we wanted to also recognize Broomfield High School's percussion ensemble. Also in their division, won the gold medal here as well at state championships in the concert class, where they don't do all the marching and things, but they stand still. And their band director is Sarah Wagner, a good friend of ours. And so we're really proud that they made that. So 2 gold medals for Broomfield this year. Yeah.
Thank you so much. And thank you for putting time into the kids. We know that I'm a former high school math and science teacher, so I know the efforts that are put into this. And I just thank you all for being here and keep going at it. Anything can turn into something that you can drum on. Am I right? So keep it going, keep the creativity going, and appreciate you all. Thanks.
you.
Okay, we'll go to you. Mayor Pro Tem Lim.
Thank you. I just wanted to add my congratulations. And I thought this was a good opportunity to highlight a new program that we have in our communications department. So we're starting the Hometown Accomplishments Program to highlight the many accomplishments of our residents and local groups across the Broomfield channels. So whether it's a state championship, a major academic or arts award, or a community service milestone, we'd love to highlight these stories. We know we have so many accomplished and well-meaning servants throughout the community. So you need to be a Broomfield resident or a local organization to qualify, but you can submit your accomplishments at broomfield.org/hometown accomplishments. So we'd love to hear about all the great things that the community is doing.
Thank you,
Thanks.
Mayor Pro Tem. Councilmember Ward.
Thank you, Mayor. I also will just add my congratulations to you all. I played percussion actually from 6th grade through 10th grade. And a good majority of that I did get to do, marching band and some specialty percussion type performances. And it's just a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun to be playing with your bandmates and putting in the hard work and then being recognized for it. It's just even better. I remember my freshman year of high school for state marching band competition. I had to play the cymbals. I wasn't thrilled with it, I will say, because I was like, it's just cymbals. I wanted to do the snare or the tenor or something, fun. But when it came time to state, I remember getting to listen to the judges' comments because they recorded all the comments and they sent them to all the bands. And it still makes me laugh to this day because the judges would harp on every instrument but cymbals. They raved about the cymbals. They thought we were the perfect thing and wanted to take us home. And I'm like, it's just a cymbal. How hard is it? It's not that hard. At least that's what I was thinking when I was listening to it. So congratulations. I know it's a lot of work and it's a lot of fun.
Well, I would like to invite you all to come up in front of the dais and we will take a group picture. So just kind of follow me around. Come on, Holly. You guys can get 2 rows. We get one row of people maybe down on the knee down here so that we can make. And then I'll alternate from people too. Yeah, we could somehow move everybody has. Absolutely. That was lovely. Good, good. We'll give the legacy folks a moment to move on to their evening. I'm glad there's some people left. It would have been lonely. Pardon? Oh, y'all are too. You want to stay and see what your city council does? Stay. You're invited to stay. Find out what we do. Oh, congratulations. Do y'all want to take a picture? We can do another picture. Yes, we have to do another picture. Come on. Almost. Oh, did not. I'm not always on the right page. So. Chandra. Can't get out of the picture. I changed school. There's still people here. That's my favorite way to start a meeting. Now, we will continue with public comment. This is an opportunity for the public to comment on matters. Oh, I skipped over something. Sorry, Mr. Kraus. Hold on one second. Does any member of council have any reports or updates this evening? Mayor Pro Tem Lim.
Yes, Mayor, thank you. There were a lot of community events lately. Some were related to the Workforce Veterans Month. The Workforce Department sponsored the Veterans Lunch on Friday, May 23rd. That was a lovely event to honor our veterans. And we just had the Memorial Day celebration at Broomfield Community Commons. And we'd like to thank the Veterans Museum and the Rotary Club for providing food at that event. May is also Income Aligned Housing Month. I had the opportunity to attend the Income Aligned Housing Tour on May 16th. I appreciated that the Broomfield Housing Alliance sponsored that and gave residents the opportunity to tour those facilities and promote that to those who would qualify. The Housing Town Hall, sponsored by the Broomfield Housing Solutions Forum, is tomorrow in the Crawford Room at Broomfield Community Center from 7 to 8:30 p.m. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any other reports from my colleagues or updates? All right, now then, it is public comment time. My apologies, gentlemen. We'll continue. This is an opportunity for the public to comment on matters other than the items already listed elsewhere on the agenda. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes and state your name and neighborhood for the record.
My name is Bill Crothers, Northmore, and just want to say hi to the council, mayor, city staff. I just wanted to quickly give a shout out to the Broomfield Police Department who put on a BPD Insider Academy for the last 10 weeks. It's an opportunity where you get to go spend 10 weeks with a lot of police officers, a lot of detention officers, everybody that works for the police department. And they teach you exactly what they do and how they do it. So I would highly recommend it for anybody that really wants to understand what our police department does and what's all involved in it. We did patrol, traffic, detention. We learned about dispatch, different types of crime, victim services, and investigation of crime scenes, along with my favorite, which was the K-9 division. Everybody loves the K-9 division. We went on actual rides with the police officers. Pretty much everybody did. And last week, we went to the track and drove the police cars. We did laps in the cars. We did parking. We did pitting where you slam into people and spin them sideways. We did all of that stuff last week. It was incredible. So that was really fun. I'd urge anybody who wants to understand how Broomfield became one of the safest cities in America. And it really is these officers and the people that work for the police department. There's a lot more people than you realize when you start getting dispatch and detectives and everybody else involved. It's quite a big department. And so we're just finishing our session. Tomorrow night we have our graduation, and I'm not positive, but I think that gets us one get out of jail free card for speeding. I'm not sure yet. They haven't exactly approved that yet, but I think that's what it is. So just wanted to thank Chief Hempelman, and Rachel Hazlitt is the lady who puts it all together. And then all the other officers, detention people, everybody that was involved, I'm sure spent a lot of hours putting this thing together. So it was a great class. I want to thank them all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Crothers.
Hello, council and mayor and staff. My name is Peter Kraus. I live in Eagle Trace North. And a couple of things I want to comment on. First, on this Civic Town Center project that has been kind of languishing. I think that we have to be careful to know and absorb the limits of what a city government can and should do. And I think you guys are facing that in these tight fiscal times. We have to be really mindful of those decisions we make, because just like any of our household budgets don't have unlimited resources, our public sector budgets, as you well know, don't have unlimited resources. And you guys are faced with the hard task of figuring out how to use the resources that are available to our city. So I just implore you to take a real careful consideration of that project. If I was on council, I think I would try and implore council to sell the Safeway, recoup some of the money, put that project, put a stake through the heart of that project, and then figure out what we're going to do with that land going forward. Now, I'm going to turn to Memorial Day. I'm going to read excerpts of the Letter to Americans from Heather Cox Richardson. She's a historian and a great one at that. She wrote this letter on May 23rd, 2026. And if I run over, please let me run over. It's long, but I'm not going to read it. I'm going to try and parse through and find the things that are most important. In 1864, the U.S. government bought General Lee's property. The Army advanced through the Wilderness Campaign, grinding through the Battle of the Wilderness, the Battle of Spotsylvania Courthouse, Cold Harbor, and on to the Siege of Petersburg. The dead piled up. The Army buried the dead and sent the wounded back to Washington, D.C., where they arrived by hundreds as long as the waves of sorrow came streaming back from the fields of slaughter. They came groping, hobbling, and faltering, so faint and so longing for rest that one's heart bled at the piteous sight. For many, that rest was forever. In the era before antibiotics and modern medicine, the soldiers died in the summer heat. Cemeteries became overwhelmed, and so they established on the righteous uses of the estate of the rebel General Lee, Arlington National Cemetery. By 1864, 16,000 Civil War soldiers had been buried at Arlington. It was here that on May 30th, 1868, the first official Memorial Day ceremony took place. In those days, the observance was called Decoration Day and was widely celebrated after the war as people put flowers on the graves of the war dead. James Garfield, who would later be taken down by an assassin's bullet, was a major general in the war who saw action at Shiloh and Chickamauga. He was also a congressman. Garfield told his comrades that the men buried at Arlington had summed up and perfected by one supreme act the highest virtues of men and citizens. For love of country, they accepted death and thus made immortal their patriotism and their virtue. They had fought, he said, to defend the fundamental principle of the United States. Before the war, Garfield said, the faith of our people and the stability and permanence of our institutions was like their faith in the eternal course of nature. Peace, liberty, and personal security were blessings as common and universal as sunshine and showers and fruitful seasons, and all sprang from a single source, the old American principle that all owe due submission and obedience to the lawfully expressed will of the majority. This is not one of the doctrines of our political system. It is the system itself. It is our political firmament in which all other truths are set as stars in the heaven against the principle the whole weight of the rebellion was thrown. Its overthrow would have brought ruin. And
Mr.
so he
Kraft,
said,
I think this is a really long piece, and I know it's important, but
it's very important.
I know, but we have a really tight agenda. So can you email it to council and we can read it?
Yeah. So Sarah, my love from the soldier, I'll read the very last paragraph. My love for you is deathless. It seems to bind me with mighty cables that nothing but omnipotence can break. And yet my love of country comes over me like a strong wind and bears me irresistibly on with all those chains to the battlefield. It was the last thing he would write to his wife when he died at the first battle of the Civil War in Bull Run. This country must stand solid for our Constitution. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Paul Kohoff. I'm at 14300 Waterside Lane, Broomfield, Colorado. I've talked to Todd on phone and I've also sent him emails. I second that gentleman's thing about the proposal on that property. You need to put a stake in the heart. You're just having meetings and talking about it and nothing's happening. You're wasting our time. You're wasting money. Kill it. That's one thing. But the second thing I want to talk about is actually, it's not an agenda item, but it is in your community update, being a loop letter, e-bike or e-motorcycle. Are you familiar with that?
Yeah.
Well, you just had a long to-do and virtue signaling about how safe the streets are. I would absolutely disagree. I sit, my chair faces Zunai both directions between 144th and 136th, and I will tell you that these children, and these are children riding these bikes, you guys wordsmith this to death. I guess a lawyer wrote it where you don't know what these things are. I'll just call them motorcycles because that's what they are. They're riding them on the sidewalks, which is illegal. So you need to enforce the law. They're speeding. There are children. There are mothers and fathers pushing their children in their buggies or whatever it is. They're going to get killed. And my son saw this, and he told me, because I came up at 144th and Zunai at that intersection where the light is. 3 hoodlums come flying down there. People are blowing their horns at them, and they're giving them the finger. The kids on the bike. So either they're going to fall because they think they're Supermen. They got these video games that I guess they watch, and they think, oh, if I fall, I'll just get right back up. As opposed to they're going to break their neck and probably be paralyzed from the neck on down. So you guys have got to enforce this law because it's completely out of control. I blame the parents. It's actually in your little write-up here about parental. You've got all these websites, which are great. I don't know who's reading them, but I'm telling you, I've seen it. I have a bike that I ride to PDRC and back. I've almost been mowed over by these kids. They don't care. They could be looking at a phone. That's these other mopeds where they have their heads down, driving these things. They could hit a hole, a bump, and they could literally just spill. So I strongly encourage you to enforce these laws that you evidently already have, that I'm not going to bore you with, because I read them, you have codes. And I would like to come back and see what you guys have done. I guess the police are going to have to enforce the laws. You know, you're talking about how wonderful police are. Hey, I'm blue and black too. I love our law enforcement. But it doesn't help. I haven't seen any cops up and down Zunai stopping these. Motorcycles, cars, they're speeding 60, 70 miles an hour down Zunai. I have no idea how someone hasn't been killed by now, but I'm going on record. It's going to happen. And then your wonderful little things about being the safe city on streets, not going to happen. So I'm telling you, you guys need to do something about this now before someone gets killed or someone is going to be paralyzed. And then maybe they'll sue the city because you're not enforcing your own laws. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Would anyone else like to be heard? Please make your way to the podium.
Mayor Pro Tem, Council, City staff, thank you for this time to speak. I just wanted to echo the sentiment that one of the gentlemen expressed a few weeks ago about increasing your salaries. I was looking at some of the other municipalities adjacent to Broomfield, and I'm of the opinion that as a proportion of your responsibilities and the budget for the city, I think that you guys are all underpaid. So I just wanted to say that. And then additionally, I also wanted to reaffirm what the last 2 speakers said about canning the BTS project. I think that even if the project gets canceled and goes away, I don't think that that shows that the council and that the city at large does not want a town square. It's just that this developer has shown a true lack of motivation and care for this project. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? All right, moving on to reports. City Manager Hoffman, do you have a report this evening?
I do not. Thank you.
Thank you. Attorney Rogers, do you have a report?
No, thank you, Mayor.
All right, thank you. Next is the consent agenda. Council's and borough's consideration of the consent items is next. Before we proceed, we'll convene a meeting of borough. The meeting of the Broomfield Urban Renewal Authority is called to order to consider agenda item 6G. I'll note that all members of the authority are present with the exception of members Goldstein and Law Evans and Brown. Borough members Peterson and McKenzie are attending remotely. The clerk will read all of the consent items by title, and there'll be one opportunity for public comments and council borough questions and comments. Will the clerk please read agenda items 6A through 6G by title?
6A, approval of minutes for the regular council meeting of May 12th, 2026. 6B, proposed resolution number 2026-65, authorizing and approving annual aggregate spending with Lunavi, Inc. for information technology services. 6C, proposed resolution number 2026-66, authorizing and approving amendment number 4 to the intergovernmental agreement with the Boulder Valley District number RE-2 for use of fiber optic cable. 6D, proposed resolution number 2026-71, approving the First Amendment to the consulting agreement with Felsberg, Holt and Yolovig, Inc. for construction management services for the 112th Avenue and Uptown project. 6E, proposed resolution number 2026-74, approving the First Amendment to the consulting agreement with Roxall Consulting Group, Inc. for construction management services for the Commerce Street, Nichols Street, and Industrial Lane intersection improvements project. 6F, request for executive session regarding Broomfield Town Square, and 6G, request for borough executive session regarding Broomfield Town Square.
Thank you. We'll now proceed with public comments, if any, on these items. If any residents are using the call-in service, press *9 to raise your hand. And we'll start with in person, if anyone would like to comment on the consent agenda items. Seeing none, we'll move on to questions from council. Does any member of council have comments or borough? Or since we're both? Nope, no questions from council. Okay. Well then, before asking for a motion on the council consent items, I want to remind everyone that item 6F is a request for executive sessions, which requires 2/3 of council approval. Is there a motion by council that consent items 6A through 6F be approved? Councilmember Delgadillo.
Moved.
Thank you. Is there a second? Councilmember Ward.
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? All right, council, please cast your vote electronically. Councilmember Peterson, please state your vote verbally.
Approve.
Thank you. Councilmember McKenzie, please state your vote verbally.
Yes.
Thank you. All council members have entered their vote, and the results will be displayed on the screen. That passes unanimously 8-0. Next is borough's consideration of the consent agenda for the exec session. So we'll need a 2/3 approval. Is there a motion by borough that consent item 6G be approved? Councilmember Ward.
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second? Councilmember Delgadillo.
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Borough members, please cast your vote electronically. Borough member Peterson, please state your vote verbally.
Yes.
Thank you. Borough member McKenzie, please state your vote verbally.
Yes.
Thank you. All borough members have entered their vote, and the results will be displayed on the screen. That also passes unanimously 8-0. Thank you for that. First, under action items, tonight is the public hearing and council's consideration of a resolution related to a second site development plan amendment to expand athletic facilities and parking at Holy Family High School campus at 5195 West 144th Avenue. I'll now declare the public hearing open. We'll follow the city's standard public hearing procedures. First, staff will present a summary of the proposal. Next, we'll have the applicant's presentation. Then we'll ask for public comments and final comments from the applicant, and finally, questions from city council members. Following council questions, I will close the hearing. Following the hearing will be council's discussion, consideration, and vote on the application based on the applicable criteria in the code. Council has a copy of the agenda memorandum, which I'll ask our staff to summarize.
Thank you and good evening, community and council. Ted Harburg, our senior planner, is going to walk us through this item. Mr. Harburg, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Manager Hoffman, and good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and Council. Again, I'm Ted Harburg, Senior Planner. Next slide. The proposal this evening is for a site development plan amendment at Holy Family High School to add additional athletic facilities and additional parking. The school is located at the northeast corner of West 144th Avenue and Sheridan. The site is zoned planned unit development, and it's located within the West 144th Avenue and Sheridan Boulevard PUD plan area. The PUD plan designates the property of the high school for institutional and high school use. The proposed athletic fields and parking are consistent with this zoning designation, and staff has not identified any key issues with this proposal. Next slide. With the recent success of the school's athletic program, the school would like to move forward with improvements, including an expanded softball field complex with an entrance plaza, a press box, a concession stand, a new synthetic turf athletic field to the west of the existing school building, and also a new 300-space parking lot. The image on the screen shows the overall location of the proposed site improvements relative to the school campus, and the colors show each project component as a separate phase. The first of the project components on this graphic is the piping of the existing Farmers Reservoir and Irrigation Company, or FRICO ditch, which has been tentatively approved by the ditch company. This will allow for the construction of the parking lot as shown as phase 2 on the screen. The applicant is requesting a variance from the Broomfield Municipal Code, Chapter 17-32-080, which requires that all off-street parking spaces and access to such spaces be surfaced with asphalt or concrete. The applicant is requesting a variance to allow the lot to remain surfaced in gravel as an interim condition. The agreement for this to be a temporary condition is included both on the variance table and in the improvement agreement for this development, with the expectation that the parking lot be paved prior to proceeding with the new athletic fields. The applicant is also proposing to install 14 new bike racks for a total of 28 bicycle parking spaces, 28 new bicycle parking spaces and a total of 48 bicycle parking spaces. The applicant has indicated that phases 3 and 4 may be completed in a different order as shown on the screen, but reflect the intent to phase the improvements over time. Next slide. Pedestrian and bicycle access to the site is proposed to be enhanced with improvements. These include a new internal sidewalk along Patty Gabriel Way, that's shown in red here, connecting to the eastern entrance, and a new concrete plaza between the baseball and softball fields. Enhancements to the sidewalk north of the proposed multi-use field are also proposed as a part of this plan. Next slide. 2 new accessory structures are proposed as a part of this project. The renderings on the screen show these structures, and these are the concession stand located at the entrance plaza of the softball field complex and a new press box. The plans also show fencing surrounding the new softball field. Next slide. This application includes an improvement agreement that outlines public improvement requirements and includes a special provision related to the project phasing. The agreement also includes a separate provision requiring the school to complete an irrigation water supply agreement with the city to replace the existing water supply agreement from 1998, because the current water lease was intended to terminate following the completion of the city's water reuse system. Staff has not identified any key issues for this proposal. In June of last year, LERC unanimously recommended approval of the application with one condition, which was to make sure that the parking lot is paved before the athletic fields move forward. And staff notes that this review did require more time than is typical due to the complicated process of working with the FRICO Ditch Company and because the school needed to discuss the required water irrigation agreement with the city. Next slide. The applicant has met the concept review, neighborhood meeting, and public notice requirements for this application. No members of the public requested to speak at the LERC hearing, and thus the applicant was not asked to hold a follow-up neighborhood meeting. Next slide. An excerpt of the review criteria for a site development plan amendment is on the screen. And this concludes my presentation. The applicant is in attendance this evening and plans to give a brief presentation. Thank you.
Applicant presentation. Please identify yourself for the record before beginning your presentation this evening.
Good evening. My name is Elise Applegate Klink. I work at Norris Design, and I'm a consultant working on behalf of Holy Family High School. Tonight in attendance, we have my colleague Jared Carlin, and then the principal of Holy Family High School, Mike Gabriel. All right, first slide, please. All right, so to give a little background on the high school, Holy Family High School was established by the Archdiocese of Denver in 1992 and moved from North Denver to Broomfield to this building in 1999. The school has over 700 students enrolled and boasts 21 varsity sports. And in the trend of really high achieving high schools in Broomfield, the softball team has gone to the state championships for the last 3 years, and the basketball teams have won recent state championships as well. Next page, please. So you're probably quite familiar with the site, but I wanted to go over what is on site. This was all approved in a PUD in 1997. And right now the high school has one baseball field, a combination baseball softball field, and a football and track field. Oh, there are also tennis courts. I neglected that in my notes, but we got those approved a couple of years ago. Next slide, please. So this site development plan that you see here, the illustrative, shows the existing along with some proposed fields. On the far left of the screen, item A is a multi-use field for sports like soccer and lacrosse. B and C are enhancements to the one existing field and the addition of a softball field. So B could serve as baseball or softball. C is just for softball. And then that space in between is a sort of plaza area. This is intended to allow the school to host tournaments, so you can have 2 games going at once. And then item D is the proposed parking area with a total of 326 parking spaces. Throughout the site, there's also a lot of additional landscaping with native and pollinator-friendly ornamental plantings and shade trees, especially along that sidewalk and in the parking lot to make for more cool, enjoyable walks throughout the campus. Next slide, please. So this kind of zooms in on the softball and plaza area. These improvements will be phased, with the priority being the softball and combination fields that are joined by this plaza that I mentioned earlier. In addition to the typical dugouts and fencing, the proposed field will also feature built-in stadium seating and a press box. That's right where you can see G sort of in the top center, and the press box is item F there. There's also the sort of marker for D, that's a concession and restroom building. That's been very intentionally designed to make sure it can serve dual purposes and make sure that any parents working in the concessions box can still kind of keep an eye on games. Let's see. Next slide, please. So here we're looking at the proposed parking lot. Currently, these are sort of open fields that serve as overflow parking for large events like track meets, wrestling meets, graduation. And the intent here is that when the school does all of this work to bury the FRICO ditch in that sort of item D dashed area, we want to be able to make sure that they can use that area right away for parking needs. And then when the actual construction of the softball fields happens, along with the construction of the sidewalks and all of the other work in that area, that's when everything will get paved. But these are really expensive improvements. And so while we're in there grading, we're trying to just be really logical and, use all the trucks for one job at a time. Next item, please. All right, here are some architectural renderings of the buildings. Ted showed those earlier, but you can see the concessions box up front with the roll up. And then the backside has bathrooms, water fountain, and also some maintenance sort of closet area. On the right, we've got the press box that will sit up above the field and the dugouts to shade the players while they're mid-game. Next slide, please. We also have some 3D renderings that were created to kind of give a sense of how this works. This is looking northwest across the softball field. You can see the press box, the plaza behind it, and then Holy Family High School in the background. Next slide, please. And then this is a bird's eye view with that same sort of view toward the northwest to give you a sense of how this all plays out within the site. All right. And then this final view is from that bleacher seating that's just off of the plaza, looking, let's see, east onto the dedicated softball field. There is netting proposed through here and about 5-foot fencing all the way around the outfield as well. Another view generally from where the concession stand would be. You can see how there's some sort of elevated seating. And then next one, please. This is a view looking straight south from that plaza entrance. We've been really intentional about plantings and trees to make sure that this is a really comfortable, welcoming space. Next slide, please. And then we just wanted to leave with a touch on the parking demand. We know that, parking isn't always the most popular thing to add to a site. But this is an image from, I believe, a homecoming or large event football game in which you can see way off in the distance, there already is a lot of parking in that area. Sort of right next to the existing baseball softball combo, you can see rows of cars and then the ditch in between with that green space and then more. This isn't intended for day-to-day parking. Students and teachers have the space they need right now, but for big events like this, it's really helpful, especially because there's no immediate neighborhood in which to park. You have to cross some really busy streets to get there, and we don't want to be blocking up the neighborhood streets. And I believe that wraps us up. We'll be glad to answer any questions you have.
Thank you very much. We'll now proceed with public comments. If anyone would like to comment on this item, now's the time. Seeing none, we'll go to council questions. Any questions from my colleagues? We have Councilmember Peterson online first. Sorry.
Yes, thank you. That was a great presentation. I'm just curious about what the status is of the new water agreement for irrigating the fields.
The principal, Mike Gabriel, has been a little bit more involved in water conversations than I have, but I can say that with these fields, they're actually proposed to be synthetic turf. I should have mentioned that earlier. So there will actually be a net reduction in water demand with these particular fields.
Oh, wow. Oh, that's great. And then currently the Franco ditch goes across that field, but underneath a road, right? So there's a culvert under a road to access the existing field where people have been parking?
That's correct.
Okay. And then the part of the ditch that goes across the field is going to be buried and supported. Has that plan been approved already? Or is that still in negotiations?
So it's been reviewed by FRICO with all of our submittals. They won't give a formal approval until they've seen full civil construction documents, which we have not created because we haven't gotten through site plan approval. But we have gotten conditional approval for the site plan as it's currently proposed. There was a lot of coordination with them over the last few years.
Oh, I'm sure. Okay.
And did you have any other water questions, or did the synthetic turf part sort of wrap it up?
I think that's all I needed for now.
Okay.
And then I do have one more question though. So the parking area is going to be gravel initially, so that you can use it right away during the phase 1 construction. And then it's going to be paved along with phase 2. Is that correct?
That is correct. It'll be paved at the same time or in conjunction with the construction of the softball field.
Okay. Out of curiosity, if you end up not getting the funding to complete phase 2, if that ends up not happening for some reason, is there a plan to still pave the parking lot?
Yes, ultimately, we want that to be paved. We want curb and gutter. We want to do all the landscaping that's in that site development plan that we shared with you. So eventually, that is the plan, regardless of whether the fields get done or not.
Okay, great. Well, thank you very much. Those are all my questions.
All right, thank you. Next is Mayor Pro Tem Lim.
So I'll start with my question about the irrigation agreement, since Principal Gabriel was ready to address that. I know there was an agreement that had lapsed, and so it needed to be renegotiated.
Right, and that's still happening. There is an agreement to make an agreement, is my understanding from both the City of Broomfield and the Archdiocese of Denver.
And staff, I understand that council will see that agreement when it's finalized. Is that true?
Correct.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay. And my other questions. There was a concern in the first neighborhood meeting about the possibility of any increased noise to the surrounding neighborhoods from the additional fields. And I think that was addressed at the time, but if you'd like to address that, that would be helpful.
These would be multi-use fields. I believe you're talking about the softball, baseball complex.
Yes.
No lighting on the field, so they'd be strictly day use. I don't foresee that being a sound issue. Um, I don't know why it would be any different than what we have currently.
And the multi-use field that's westmost, closest to the intersection of Sheridan and 144 is across from the Pony Estates?
Correct. There is a rise or a hill berm to the west of us that
Yeah.
will protect sound from that area. And again, that will be day use only. That's the current plan.
Okay, thank you. And I appreciated that Lurk had put in the condition with the paving precedents, and I also appreciated staff's notification and notes about the oil and gas facilities in the memo. Those are my questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Councilmember Ward.
Thank you, Mayor. I just have a question about the kind of variance you're requesting regarding the parking lot. My first question is, when you first brought this to Lurk, was your intent to pave it after completion of the ball fields, or was it at that time just to keep it as a gravel lot? I just want to make sure I'm understanding kind of what the
Our
requests
intent
were.
has always been to pave. That would be our immediate need is parking. We just had graduation. We had overflow parking in those fields you saw pictures of into the neighborhood. So our immediate need is parking. In order to kind of bridge the gap funding wise, to be able to have gravel or some other aggregate sort of material in that parking lot for the time being until we're able to fully fund curb, gutter, paving, all the landscaping that would come into it. That's why we sought the variance.
Okay. This question I think might be for staff, but we'll play it by ear. What are the cost implications for paving this versus if this was left as a gravel lot entirely? I'm just kind of curious because I assume paving is going to require absolutely curb and gutter and, stormwater drainage and all that fun stuff. Would that be required under a gravel lot type setup? Staff.
If you could repeat your question, I'm not going to be able to maybe speak to the applicant's costs, but I'll try to answer the rest of your question.
Well, I'm just curious, does having a gravel lot require or necessitate the implementation of a full curb and gutter with stormwater abatement?
No, so the gravel lot really is intended to be more of an interim condition, and has more to do with the timing of the project and the piping of the FRICO ditch. The full curb and gutter would be reviewed.
Yes, I know. I'm just curious, if it were left as a full gravel lot, would they be required to put in a curb and gutter?
No, so if for some reason the project were to stop at phase 1A and not proceed, there's really no mechanism to force it to go to phase 2. And that's why the condition is really tied to those athletic fields, because that is the one of the impetus for this project.
Okay. My next question is going to go back to the applicant. Is there a benefit you see to having a fully paved impervious surface for a lot that is intended to be used, based on my understanding, for special events, really?
Could you repeat that again, please?
So I'll rephrase it slightly differently. So this lot is intended to be used for special events, sporting events, graduation, something like that. It's not intended, as I think the presentation indicated, to be permanent parking for students and faculty during normal business hours, correct?
We do currently use the lots that you saw in dirt and mud when it's rainy for student parking. We have reached a limit in capacity in our lot. So knowing our students, they would likely still park as close as they could if that was still dirt, but that would be used on a daily basis. The whole
Okay.
lot would not be used, but a portion of that lot would be used.
Okay, that clarifies a little bit and helps me understand why you want a fully impervious surface. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Henkel.
Thank you, Mayor. Hi, Mr. Gabriel. Haven't seen you in a long time.
See you.
You too. I realized that parking's needed out there. We were there obviously when my son attended Holy Family, and we parked out there many times for many different reasons. There were many different special events, and then we know that families come from different parts of the state. So the students use a lot of that parking as well. I have two questions. The first question was about the water, so I'm glad that was answered. I'm just curious if I know that that terrain, I've driven on it, is a little, up and down or whatnot. Have we done a soils test just to make sure that that is good to go? as well?
That would all come to play, my understanding, once we get approval and move forward with construction plans. We would do that prior to any other action.
Okay. I know certain places have had issues with soil, so just want to flag that for you all. Our mall had issues with it, and they were sued quite a bit due to the soils, and then Discovery Christian Church as well, had to do a lot of soil movement, so just be mindful of that. And then is there a capital campaign for this, or how's the financing going, or?
There currently is not. I have several interested parties who want to help support it once we get approval and move forward with construction plans. So I do believe that we could get this accomplished, portions of it, phase one for sure, fairly quickly.
Okay. All right, thank you. Much needed. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilmember Twist.
Thank you. Can you verify the number of spaces? Because I feel like I heard something different than what I read. I just want to make sure I didn't mishear.
I think when I was reading through the documents, there was a typo. I think it said 200 in the documents. There's actually 300 additional spaces in the new lot.
Okay, so it's 300
Yes.
plus
Plus,
the bicycle parking.
That is correct. That must have been an older note that I had, but our site development plan cover sheet shows a total of 300 in addition to the existing parking for a total of 619.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Where is the bicycle parking? I don't think I saw that.
I've got it in our landscape plans. One moment. A lot of plans. So we're specifically proposing new spaces in the plaza area. So kind of thinking about where would it make the most sense for people to land with that. And then I believe we have a couple of additional spaces near the school entrance. Because we increased the parking overall, we had to increase our bicycle parking in proportion.
Okay. All right. And I guess like some of my colleagues, I'm struggling with the idea of a 300 space impervious surface that will only be used occasionally.
Right.
Can you speak a little more to how often that will be used and
just one note before we get there, we specifically are required an impervious space with the Broomfield Municipal Code.
I recognize, that's our fault. I see that. Yeah.
All right.
No, I recognize that. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, to answer your question, we will use the lot every day. Okay, we have overflow parking currently. If you came to our school tomorrow morning, you'd see students parked in a aggregate makeshift lot to the east of the softball fields because we ran out of space in our current parking lot. And after school, just about every evening, there is some event that happens on campus, whether that be a play or a basketball game or whatever it might be, and our lot is full. So if you were to be there on a daily basis and see kind of how the ins and outs of parking go, you would understand this will be used. this will be used.
All right, those are my questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Cohen.
Thank you, Mayor. I just had one question. I wanted, maybe for staff. The last neighborhood meeting was 3 years ago. So I'm curious, one, I think you said there wasn't another one required because there weren't anybody at that one. But I'm curious, has anything changed significantly in the proposal from 2023 to 2026?
No, there have been no significant changes to the proposal, with maybe the one exception being the FRICO ditch being piped fully underground. The initial concept did not show it being piped, but the parking and athletic fields remain largely consistent with what was presented at the neighborhood meeting. And
Well, how far can a project go between community meeting and actually coming to council? Is there any other thing that would trigger, because it seems like, you know, people move, there's probably new people living there across the street who know nothing about this because they weren't there 3 years ago.
I'll defer to our planning director.
Lynn Merwin, Planning Director. Good evening. So the main requirement is that it occurs before the application is submitted. There aren't other requirements associated with it to repeat it or anything like that. We have just generally talked about having another one if the meeting is more than a year old. Or it's been more than a year since the neighborhood meeting occurred or somewhere along that line. In this case, there was really no interest and the project has been done for a year other than kind of signing the deal with FRICO and figuring out the water agreement with the city. And so we did not
There hasn't
require
been
another one.
There hasn't been any notification to the people within 1,000 feet since 2023, or has there been more recent?
Public hearing for LRC in June a year ago, and then the public hearing this time around for this meeting.
I'm just asking, since we've been having some issues with lag time between developments getting started. Is there any, I mean, is this ever an issue? Is this something that we need to address in terms of making sure there's not too long a gap between community meeting and project coming to council or to LRC, or if there's a significant change proposal that triggers another meeting, except along that line?
Manager Hoffman.
I'm going to have Ms. Burton Zeddy speak to this.
Ms. Burton Zeddy.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, Councilmember Cohen. As Planning Director Merwin was mentioning, we do give that some thought in terms of a part of our existing practices. If there has been a significant lapse in time between when the neighborhood meeting was held and when it's proceeding to public hearing, and there has been changes to the proposal, or we had seen engagement on Brimfield Voice, or there was engagement at the neighborhood meeting, and we want to provide that update. The planners will direct the applicant to have another neighborhood meeting, and you might see that sometimes in your CMO weekly update on Fridays, and we'll let you know because the project is quasi judicial, but it is having another neighborhood meeting. We typically use about a year as the marker here in this case, because there weren't changes and there was no engagement at the Land Use Review Commission hearing, which was also a year ago. That was why it wasn't triggered to require them to have another one, but they do routinely ask for it if it's been over a year.
Just to clarify, and I should know this, but is there any notification of people within 1,000 feet of a LRC hearing?
Yes.
Okay.
So we provide the 1,000-foot notice and the signage, both for the neighborhood meeting and for the public hearing for Land Use Review Commission, and again for the city council. So there's always 3 opportunities when there's those 3 public meetings for a case.
Terrific. That's great. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Any other questions from council? There being no further questions, the public hearing is closed. Next is council's consideration of proposed resolution number 2026-59. Will the clerk please read the proposed resolution by title?
Resolution number 2026-59, approving the Holy Family High School filing number 1, Lot 1 Site Development Plan, Second Amendment, athletic fields and parking.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the resolution? Councilmember Henkel.
So moved.
Is there a second? Councilmember Cohen.
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? All right, seeing no discussion, we'll move forward to the vote on resolution number 2026-59. Council, please cast your vote electronically. Councilmember Peterson, how do you vote?
Yes.
Thank you. Councilmember McKenzie, please state your vote.
Yes.
Thank you. All council members have entered their vote, and the results will be displayed on the screen. That passes unanimously 8-0. Thank you all very much. Next, under action items is a public hearing and council's consideration on second reading of a proposed ordinance establishing vehicle nuisance provisions in the Broomfield Municipal Code to deter street racing and related unlawful or unsafe vehicle activity. I'll now declare the public hearing open. Council has a copy of the agenda memorandum, which I'll ask our staff to summarize.
Thank you, Mayor. And making their way down to the podium is AC Stetson, Deputy Chief of the Police Department, and Nancy Rogers, City County Attorney. AC is going to kick us off, if you would, please.
Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, council members, city staff. Again, AC Stetson, Deputy Chief of Field Operations at the Broomfield Police Department. I'm going to try to, the presentation I'm going to go over is basically very similar to the first reading, so I won't go as much detail. But basically, we're here to talk about the proposed ordinance for a vehicle nuisance provision within our city code. You can flip to the next slide. I think everyone is aware with that across the Denver metro area over the last few years, there's been a large increase in unlawful street racing and or organized unlawful motor vehicle events that can be 500 to 1,000 cars that include a lot of behavior such as racing, eludings, and other dangerous vehicle driving behavior. In 2025, the Broomfield, City and County of Broomfield had 90 incidents that we tracked. In 2026, as of this last weekend, we've tracked 40 incidents and calls for service related to this type of events. Just to keep in mind on that, sometimes we'll receive multiple calls of service, or because of the nature of these events, sometimes they move, so they may move to different locations within the city. As of about this weekend, 30 plus citations have been issued, and we've had over 20 eluding incidents, including one that occurred this last weekend, and multiple arrests for things along warrant arrests, DUI arrests, things of that nature. These type of events provide a challenge to law enforcement, and for a couple reasons. One is that the behavior of the people attending the events, also they take actions to try to deter enforcement. And those are things that you'll hear about on the news as far as like getting on the highway and slowing down traffic so other people can race, or trying to hide each other's vehicles. In addition, some of the offenders in these often elude the police department, which makes it very difficult for us to find out who they are and actually make an enforcement action. In the spring of this year, because this has been increasing, we decided to have a strategic response to this. This proposed ordinance is part of that response that we're requesting. Other things we've done over the years, we've done this year is a command level response team that meets, not speaking well tonight, that meets weekly. We've increased dedicated overtime. So every weekend we have dedicated overtime officers that go out and work these events. And we also implemented a trespass agreement form program with local businesses. And the point behind that was to try to deter locations within the city while engaging our businesses and different locations. We have seen a slight decrease in these events through those actions, but they are continuing, and then they're also starting to change their behavior where they may not be staying in Broomfield, but they're driving through the city, which also creates calls for service, a danger to the community, and some challenges to us. Next slide, please. All right. The proposed ordinance establishes a civil process to address vehicle-related public nuisances and enhance community safety. It uses techniques such as restraining orders, impoundment, abatement agreements, and court judgments as the primary tool, as opposed to traditionally we would just be citing people with either traffic offenses or criminal offenses. It provides the police department another tool to help combat this dangerous and illegal behavior. And it focuses, instead of traditional law enforcement on the offender, it focuses on the vehicle as the tool for the crime. And so it's a different way we can focus on dissuading behavior. It enables us to remove the vehicle used in the criminal activity and provide some accountability for the owners. I think it's important to mention specifically, this isn't just any driving behavior. This is targeted at dangerous driving behavior that falls along these types of events. And so there's actually within the ordinance, there's specific vehicle-related crimes. I'll just go over those. Speeding, which is 40 plus miles per hour over the limit or 100 miles an hour or higher. Speed contests, that's speed racing. Vehicular eluding, reckless driving, minimum speed regulations. What that means is that's what I spoke about earlier when someone, there's a group of people and people will pull up, slow everybody down so that people can race ahead of them. Creates immense annoyance within the community, but more importantly, it's a huge safety issue when they're doing that on highways where people are driving at 70 miles an hour. It might be coming up on these events. Unlawful destruction of private property. And then 2 or more disturbing the peace offenses within 180 days. The obstructing the highway goes along with the minimum speed regulations. It's the same type of behavior that also would include like closing streets so they could do racing. We actually have not seen that in the city, that part yet this year, but it's something that could occur.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem and Council. Nancy Rogers, the City and County Attorney. Next slide. So the process that this vehicular nuisance ordinance will allow for is that the police department will investigate, identify the vehicle, and forward that file to my office. My office then will file a complaint with our municipal court. The court determines if we have probable cause for that impound, and then they can issue an order. And then at that point, BPD would impound that vehicle. And then as far as timing, the actual hearing on this impound is set in 21 days. We, out of my office in the city and county attorney's office, would serve that complaint on all owners of record and the defendant. If we know the driver's name, sometimes we don't, but if we know the driver's name, we'll serve the defendant in addition to whatever registered owner we've been able to locate. The first appearance hearing would then occur. That's with the attorneys from my office and the defendants. And at that point, we talk to the people involved, see if they want to enter into an abatement agreement, see what their story is about this vehicle. Maybe they're a non-involved owner, which I'll talk about in a second. And if they want to move forward on the trial to see if this impound and this full seizure of the vehicle is proper, then we'll set a trial on the merits. It is our office's, my office's responsibility to prove that the vehicle is a public nuisance. And we have to do that by a preponderance of the evidence, which is more likely than not. If proven, that vehicle can be permanently seized by the city and county of Broomfield, and costs can be imposed on the defendant. As you know from your presentations by Judge Bachman, though, those costs are modified. It's not a formal sliding scale, but she always talks to our defendants about the costs that are incurred if she's going to order costs on a defendant. Those can include everything from the impound towing cost to the cost for prosecution services, such as if we use our outside counsel. Next slide. Please. Thank you. There is a process for an immediate impound. That there are times when, as the deputy chief was talking about, the situation right now on site warrants an immediate impound, civil impound of the vehicle. That's if not only the crime, the vehicle was used in the crime that the deputy chief was talking about, but also there's a significant risk that the vehicle is either going to be quickly destroyed, removed from an area where we can't grab it in the future, which it would include beyond our neighboring jurisdictions, or concealed or maybe hidden. The court process is definitely still required. There is a lot of process in this ordinance. We are seizing of property of individuals. So you still have a court process if we do that immediate impound. We modeled this ordinance off of Westminster's. That immediate impound is not used as often as the after the fact impound. After officers have a chance to investigate, identify vehicles, work with our staff to build a case, and then we go get that court order and grab a car. There's also abatement agreements where even at-fault defendants can come to an agreement that they promise to utilize their vehicle in a certain way for a set amount of time in exchange for maybe
the towing or the impounding being put off for a year. And then the hope is in that year and that 2-year period, we don't see that vehicle again, similar to the type of agreements we come to on our municipal court cases. We also have provisions for non-involved owners, recognizing that not every owner realizes that their vehicle might be used in this way. If that owner comes to us and talks to us about the situation, is truly a non-involved owner, then we can also work on an agreement with them that allows for an immediate release so they can get their vehicle back, but also maybe the promise that they're going to keep an eye on their vehicle a little bit more and not let it be used in this way. There's also a process if the court determines that we did an improper impound. And in that case, when we have a defendant where the judge said this shouldn't have been impounded, the judge can issue that we pay that person's cost. So we're going to be very careful about what we use this on. We're going to make sure our cases are tight and that it's going to be a really effective and lawful impound with full due process. And with that, Mayor, that's our last slide. So the Deputy Chief and I are here for any questions.
Thank you very much, Ms. Rogers and Deputy Chief Stutson. We will now proceed with public comments. So if you would, you can come up and ask the question. We'll get one of us to answer it for you, sir.
Sounds like you're prosecuting the vehicle, not the person that drove the vehicle. Did I misunderstand that? That makes no sense to me. It's like you have a gun, you're going to prosecute the gun, but not the guy who pulled the trigger and murdered someone. Is that true?
Well, thank you. This is a chance for you to comment to council on your.
Oh, I'm all against this, stopping this racing, because I hear it all the time up and down 25.
This
And
is
it
in
goes on all the
addition-
time.
So this is in.
My comment is,
In
your
addition-
proposal is talking about impounding a vehicle. What about the person who drove the vehicle?
Well, this is, I'm trying to tell you, this is in addition to the criminal charges. This is another tool on top of the criminal
So
charge.
there's two processes. You're prosecuting the person who's doing this
Mhm.
and you're impounding the vehicle, right?
Correct.
So you impound the vehicle, then the person who, okay,
It's an extra deterrent.
okay, great,
Think about it that way.
okay.
Okay. That it?
Yeah.
All right.
Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, City Council and staff. Jesse Applegate from Country Estates. This is a very impressive stick, to use a stick and carrot analogy. On top of what already exists, pretty not insignificant punitive measures against drivers. I'm wondering if we're going to start looking at ways that we can redirect them into doing this somewhere that's not so annoying to everybody. Because as I understand it, the concerns are things like safety and residents' noise complaints. And well, these people are definitely making choices with their safety, and they do. I think it'd be wise to find a way for them to do it in a way that endangers as few people as possible and keeps them from generating noise complaints. So we've got a very good stick. Now I'd be interested to see if there's any talk or thought about a carrot, so to speak. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Anyone else? Please, come on up.
Good evening, council. My name is Donna Moody, and yes, I am standing. I live at 16539 Prospect Lane, and I just wanted to thank council for all the work that you guys have done, and particularly Councilwoman Hinkle, your cute little police chief, Hempelman. She was helpful in this whole process, and of course, staff, and especially Jennifer Hoffman. Just bringing this thing forward. And as you stated, it's an additional tool. I mean, all you can do is hope that it'll help. But this isn't my issue, and it's not really a Broomfield issue. It's a statewide issue. People in every neighborhood in every city along the Front Range light up social media every Sunday morning following street races in their neighborhood. And there's always a race somewhere. So it's growing, it's well orchestrated, and it's dangerous. And I think this ordinance is recognition of that. But absent action by the state, Broomfield, my city, stepped up, and this ordinance, I think, is a step in the right direction. and you've heard of what it does. The penalties for street racing could ultimately be stiff under this ordinance, but a lot of steps in the process have to be taken and standards of probable cause and due process must be met first. So I'd personally like to see this ordinance be used as a model with the Colorado Municipal League and as a template for other municipalities to follow until and unless the state acts. So I'm just here to encourage your final approval and support of this ordinance on behalf of my neighbors, the many Broomfield neighborhoods impacted by the street racing, and the rest of the metro areas. So with that, thank you.
Thank you very much. Would anyone else like to speak? All right, then. Questions from council are next. Members should limit themselves to questions during this portion. The time to introduce amendments or state positions for or against this item is later. Are there any questions from council? Mayor Pro Tem Lim.
If anyone could address the Ward 3 residents' question about any measures, and this might be beyond the what the police are involved in. It might be more public health or something else that could address this. So what are we doing to engage and keep active in a positive way the youth who are otherwise engaging in these risky and unsafe activities? I know we have certain recreation programs for teenagers and things like that. If the resident wanted to address the carrots instead of just the sticks.
Manager Hoffman.
I'm formulating an answer as I sit here. AC Stetson can certainly, having been out there, Mayor Pro Tem, seeing what these gatherings look like and the vibe and the tenure. These aren't necessarily, and AC Stetson can certainly speak more to this, DC, but these aren't folks that we would hand out a rec pass to that would be interested in going to the BCC and or PDRC. Help me out here, DC.
Mayor Pro Tem, appreciate the question. I think there's a little bit of a, I guess to be clear on who is partaking in the majority of these events. I think having the picture of when we were younger and kids went and cruised in the neighborhood, that's not what we're talking about, right? Most of the groups that we are dealing with and having issues with are large groups, right? And they're statewide groups or Denver metro groups. They're highly organized, right? And they pick multiple locations across the Denver metro area and sometimes starting in Castle Rock, going all the way up to Buc-ee's. They do that for a reason. That's so they can start one location and then race in between the locations and have their meetup. So the idea of, back in the day of kids just getting together and cruising, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about extremely dangerous behavior. I think not specifically to the city and county of Broomfield, but there's some other things that have affected this. The closing of Vandermeer probably was part of that. There are some things that we're not doing but are happening within our Denver metro community that I'm hoping will have an impact on that. And that would be the Vandermeer opening up. And then there's also a track opening up at Colorado National Speedway. So those are some things. But I don't think particularly, I would say, most of the people we're dealing with, the offenders, they're not residents to our city. They're people that are coming to our city for this activity.
Thank you for addressing that resident's question. Councilmember Henkel.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Ms. Moody, for speaking tonight. This has been a longstanding issue that we've had here, not only in Broomfield, but throughout the region. How are we going to get the information out to the public on the steps that we're going to be taking?
So we're planning on doing a media release. I think part of that, there's actually some interviews that are going to be happening with the news. And we want to basically, we're waiting for this to go through if it passes and basically deliver a package through that, through news media and through normal social media release. Because I think one of the things that will probably be the most effective in this is getting this information out to as many people as we can, and specifically the people that are participating in these events. We have some contacts with some of those people that we've dealt with, and we addressing it with them. Just that's one of the ways we handled the trespassing agreement, is going to some of these group leaders and saying, hey, by the way, this has changed in Broomfield and here are the consequences. So things along that line as well.
Thank you. And how has the private property owners of businesses, have they been receptive to the idea of putting up signs that we've had in Broomfield? And then also the region, how has Westminster been taking the news of us also doing this?
The first part of the question is, the businesses and the property owners have been nothing but receptive. There's been one or two that we're having to work with to get signs because there's a cost to them, right? By and large, it's been relatively quick. I think, there's not as many locations as you would think for this. And as they change, we contact those businesses. I think there's one that we're pending. I could get you guys the numbers if you need it specifically, but so far it's been overwhelmingly appreciated. And there was a second part of your question.
Yeah, Westminster and the region, how have they responded to us moving forward with any of this?
Well, Westminster has a similar ordinance that they utilize, right? It's not utilized as often as you would think, but I think, was it five times, right? Because there's a huge part of this that's a dissuader, driving people in the community. And then Westminster has done similar things as far as enforcement, right? And taking a harder stance on that.
Right, I bet this kind of helps as a region for everyone to kind of be on the same page at least. And then my last question is, are we wondering about if we're pushing any of this activity into other areas, or are we being mostly impacted, I think, also by having these state highways around us? And are we pushing this into someplace else? Do you think that we're gonna find any other areas that we're pushing this into?
So there's no doubt that we're displacing the activity.
Okay.
I mean, that's just, that's just a fact,
Mhm.
right? So I know Erie on Highway 7, that King Soopers, although we do work with Erie and they've assisted us and we've assisted them. But until other things are done, this is more consistent across Denver Metro or maybe even the Front Range. We're just going to be displacing in other communities.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, the state hasn't taken much effort in this, and so I think it's good that we're working as a region, and I hope others take hold of this. Thanks.
All right, thank you very much. Any other questions from council? There being no further questions, the public hearing is closed. Next is council's consideration of proposed ordinance number 2304. Will the clerk please read the proposed ordinance by title?
Ordinance number 2204, amending Chapter 10, Vehicles and Traffic of the Broomfield Municipal Code and adopting the 2024 Model Traffic Code for Colorado.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the ordinance on second and final reading and order published by title? Councilmember Henkel.
Definitely so moved.
Thank you. Is there a second? Councilmember Cohen.
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? All right, seeing no further discussion, we'll move forward to the vote on ordinance number 2304. Council, please cast your vote electronically. Councilmember Peterson, please state your vote verbally.
Yes.
Thank you. Councilmember McKenzie, please state your vote verbally.
Yes.
Thank you. All council members have entered their vote and the results will be displayed on the screen. That passes unanimously, 8-0. Thank you, Ms. Rogers. Thank you, DC Stutson, and everyone else for your work on this. Our final item under action items this evening is council's consideration of a resolution authorizing the submittal of the City and County of Broomfield's 2026 Annual Action Plan to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, or HUD. Council has a copy of the agenda memorandum, which I'll ask our staff to begin the discussion.
Thank you, Mayor. And making her way down to the podium is Lisa Sacker. She's our Housing Programs Manager. Ms. Sacker.
Thank you very much, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, council members, staff. Just wanted to give a recap. If you'll go to the next slide, please, Curtis. I didn't want to assume that everyone understood, but the submission of these plans are a part of the required process in order for us to receive the CDBG funds, which is also the Community Development Block Grant funds. They were first awarded to Broomfield in 2008. We belonged also to the Regional Home Consortium, which we took part in 2007, along with Longmont, City of Boulder, Boulder County, and Broomfield. The little areas within the Boulder County are now added to that. But together as a consortium, we do a 5-year consolidated plan. The last one was done in 2025. It's good till 2029. We set out the goals for those 5 years. And then at the same time, we do an action plan for that first year. And then the CAPER comes around and evaluates the performance. What did we actually do and how did that measure up to the action plan from the previous year? And this is a continuous cycle. So if you go ahead into the next slide. So the 2026 action plan, basically in 50-some pages, it just says how we are going to look to use our 2026 funds, as well as how we use local funds to leverage those funds, et cetera. We primarily use our CDBG funds for a home rehabilitation program, which we partner with Brothers Redevelopment, and that serves residents up to 80% AMI, both single-family homes as well as mobile homes. We also use CDBG for small business programs, both micro grant program as well as the Enhanced Broomfield program. We are seeing the last of our CDBG CV funds. These are the COVID funds. We do have till July to use those funds before the deadline is up, and we have those fully engaged right now. They are being used by our Community Resource Center, FISH. They will be receiving a new polished floor. They will be receiving new freezers, refrigerators, and that will be exhausting our CV funds. Local funding is, as I mentioned before, we simply tell in that plan how we are weaving everything together. They don't want to know just about the CDBG, about everything all together. If you go to the next slide, please. Next slide, please. Then the CAPER is the evaluation. That's what I mentioned before. We simply show them the fiscal stability and the compliance. We show how everything fits together. We show the actual accomplishments versus the goals and why, and we explain any differences. The links are to both plans. If you have any questions, go ahead to the next slide. I'll be more than happy to answer them.
All right, thank you very much. We'll now proceed with public comments. If any residents are using the call-in service, press *9 to raise your hand. Anyone in person? Seeing none, questions from council are next. Members should limit themselves to questions during this portion. Are there any questions from council? Mayor Pro Tem Lim.
In the memo, it explained that the tenant-based rental assistance funds were going to transition in their usage. So they were concentrated previously on keeping seniors in their homes. And I understood the logic that you presented, that there would be seniors who, for whom this was not a temporary situation because of having fixed income, as opposed to families that may just be unemployed temporarily or something, and could just use this temporary assistance in a more sustainable way in the long term. But I was concerned, okay, so we're not going to target this towards the senior population. What are the other programs, or do we have other programs that will take the place of these TBRA funds?
Yes. Thank you for the question, Councilmember Lim. So last October, within the budget memo, we did present then the Broomfield Older Adult Assistance Program, which was funded with $89,500 for the program year of 2026. 10 of those seniors that were on the TBRA. TBRA is a temporary, it's a self-sufficiency program. It is 24 months, and they are maximized by the program. So knowing that they unless they would have sustainable, so a reduced living space, which with sustainable rent, they could, there's not really any opportunity for them to increase their fixed income. So it is not very sustainable for our seniors. However, the Broomfield Older Adult Assistance Program was established for that, to take these seniors in and continue that rental assistance. It's also been proposed in the budget for 2027 to then carry over all of the 23 seniors, 21 seniors, I think we have still right now. It is not proposed that we're taking any more seniors on in that program. If a space available and funds available, it would look to transition back to families.
Okay. So you're saying the 89,000, what is the status, I guess, of that 89,500 that we budgeted for 2026? Is that fully utilized already at this point?
No, it was calculated to support those 10 seniors through the 2026 program year.
Okay.
And they started using those funds in March.
Okay.
Mhm.
And, okay, and we anticipate that there, of course, could be a larger number of seniors, but that will need this assistance, but we will defer them to other resources. Is that correct in 27?
Housing looks forward to bringing the housing update on June 16th and explaining exactly what our plan is.
Okay, I'll look forward to that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Councilmember Delgadillo.
Thank you, Mayor. And thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, for that question. That was also one that I had flagged, and I look forward to that update as well. So I have one point of clarification. Are these funds from CDBG and home funds, are they already allocated and obligated to Broomfield, or is there any risk those could be clawed back as we see drama at the federal and state level when it comes to the budget?
Yeah. So grant funds, state or federal level, are always vulnerable to those entities. The 2025 funds have been allocated, and they are, this process here is part of the process for us to even apply for the 2026 funds. So when you look at the bottom line, it looks like we have a lot of dollars. You've got 400 and some if you look at the bottom line. But those 290 of those dollars are not yet accepted. So without this process, we can't actually do the application. The application is then submitted, and we wouldn't actually get the agreement till around August or September of this year.
That's helpful to know, to contextualize it. Sorry, I cut you off.
No, that's okay. So we do have it in our agreements. So Brothers does realize they actually do this type of work for many municipalities across the Front Range, and they are very vulnerable to that. It is in the agreement that if we don't receive the funds, then they may not have the work.
All right, good to know. And we'll hopefully those of us here can have a word with our electeds and such. But
Just a clarification on the home funds to be in full transparency. Home funds come through the consortium, so we are not the direct receiver of home funds. We receive them as a subrecipient through the home consortium that we're a part of. The CDBG funds, we are actually a direct entitlement. We receive those directly.
okay, that's very helpful. Thank you for that.
Mhm.
And then one of the other things I found kind of striking, it seems like, especially with TBRA and with other things, we are looking at new ways to allocate funds in ways that are more appropriate. So one of the things that I noticed was the huge increase in demand for Broomfield Fish and food pantry services. Do those numbers potentially change how we think about allocating that? I know there's need for everything, right? There's a lot of need generally, but I wonder if any of those changing numbers, if that changes our strategy for where we allocate funds.
I believe it definitely changes where we are focusing our prioritizations to, right? We're always going up to 80%, up to 60%. When we look at like, what is the percentage? The last numbers, when we look at our programs, PPTR and URIF, we see that at 44.3% are up to 30% AMI. So it's a large percentage, and that pretty much speaks to, it's a good subset. It speaks pretty much true to our programs. that approximately 44% are up to 30% AMI, and it does make us strategically think then, how do we put it together to make sure that we're serving those? And are there more with need? Absolutely. How much money we're able to put aside for them, that's going to be another question. But we are looking to put programs into place and put them in, administer them so that they are serving the most cost burden.
Okay, I appreciate that. And then there was one more that I apologize. I'm pretty sure this was answered in an email and I just could not find this email. So I'm going to
Okay.
ask the question a second time, which is that, and this might have to do with that kind of funding nuance you were saying, is that there's this $400,000 projected balance kind of carried over. What is happening to that again and again? I'm pretty sure one of my colleagues asked this in an email and it was answered.
So
I
in
apologize.
absolutely, no problem. So October 2025, it was really a question whether or not we were going to have enough CDBG funds to actually complete our agreement. We were that. So we strategically made the decision not to draw on our admin funds so that we would actually make it through 2025. The difference that made is now the 2026 allocation is $290 and 523 or something like that. That has not been yet received, but that is part of that total. And the other part of that total is we actually had to return funds in December of 2025. We returned 220,000 CDBG funds. They were for projects that were eligible at the time, but did not maintain their eligibility. So we always have to apply a matrix and a national objective, et cetera, to any project that we use these funds for. And should that agreement, should that time period not fulfill, we can't close the activity as an accomplishment. And then it is found to be ineligible and we have to return those funds. And that's what happened. So we returned the 220,000 in December plus the 290 that we have not yet actually received. And that's part of that 400.
Thank you for that. And those were my questions. Thank you, Mayor.
All right, thank you. Manager Hoffman, did you have something to add?
I did, thank you. 3 different funding streams: federal, state, local partnerships. Part of weaving these pieces together is, to Mayor Pro Tem's point, when we have impacts at the state, for example, with the program that we were just talking about with those seniors that are, it isn't temporary. And so anytime the state starts their temporary relief, we know inherently that we're going to have a population that becomes reliant. So it's an unfunded mandate without calling it an unfunded mandate. So when we're talking about those 23 seniors that are receiving temporary assistance, part of the funding that council will see when we come back with the housing, trying to identify a sustainable revenue stream, which is challenging. It's going to be challenging in 2027. We've had the conversation that we will be reallocating. So it's not prioritizing. It's not even picking what population is the most important or the most vulnerable or the most needy. It is taking from one pot and putting it into another pot, which financially that is where we are. So very difficult decisions that are coming. We can either deal with it in 2027 because it's going to be here in 2028 as well. So from a structural perspective, namely the housing development, the IHO funds, right? So at the end, and the reason this is important is because it's the filter through which all other things are processed financially, not just regarding housing, but regarding those support programs. So the IHO will, it's only going in one direction, and that's down. Meanwhile, these programs that we have, the need continues, the need increases, but the funding isn't. So it will be an enlightening conversation and a difficult one as we move forward. particularly to identify those sustainable revenue streams and not kick the can? Or to what degree are we going to decide to kick the can, particularly with the one-time funds?
All right, thank you. Councilmember Henkel.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Manager Hoffman, and thank you, council members. Thank you for being here tonight, Ms. Acker. What are we seeing? So you said that the qualifications changed. So what changed on those qualifications for that funding?
For which funding? I'm
I
sorry.
think you just had said we couldn't use the funding because the qualifications changed. So what-
For the funds that we returned?
Yeah.
So we used the funds with projects in the past with Flatirons Habitat for Humanity. They were the senior co-housing. It was an eligible project, but it was going to have to be maintained for an X number of years. By selling that property, it no longer fulfills the time period of affordability. And because it could not be sold, if there are instances where we can transition that. Should it have been sold to BHA, for example, and they would have been able to fulfill that affordability component, we can work with HUD to transition that activity so that we do not have to pay the funds back. But by selling the property to an owner that's no longer going to keep the affordability piece, then those funds become no longer eligible because we can't close out the activity and we are giving it back.
Okay.
And what happens kind of jumps in line. It moves this funding question to Councilmember Dio's question. When we have to return funds, they kind of bump in line and you have to use those first. And so we are catching up again. So we use those, then we come back around and say, why haven't we used 2025 funds yet? And says, well, because now we have this whole pot that we have to use first, and then we'll come back around.
Okay, yeah, that was my question, because I was like, I think we're in the black. So how are we in the black not using all these funds, which is, I guess, fine. But I also know in the nonprofit world, they always want us to use those funds right away. So thank you for answering that question. My next question is, when I served on the board, the tripartite board, we were often, and I don't want to out a particular community, but there was a community where we were funding a lot of our aging population in a specific area because it was supposed to be affordable housing, but their rent did go up. And I want to say that we paid the rest of their rent, I think it was like in October, maybe for the rest of the year, so they could stay inside of their homes. Are we seeing that maybe even landlords are catching on that we are paying sort of the difference, and maybe they're raising it and they know they're going to get paid through this program? I do worry about, us consistently paying in a certain area. I want to see them housed and I want funding to happen there. I'm just wondering what sort of checks and balances we have on that certain property owner in that area. I don't know if you know what area I'm talking about or not.
No, I don't know the area.
Okay.
However, I do know that the checks are the checks with the landlords. So Sharon Farrell, who runs or administers the TBRA program and has done for years, has a very close relationship with the landlords. And the seniors that are on that program are by far under the 30% mark. So they are definitely in need of that. And are the landlords gouging? I don't believe that's the case in that program specifically.
Okay, maybe in June, if we can kind of address that issue. Yeah, I
Definitely.
just worry about rent going up each year.
Yes.
And then we're just constantly paying that difference, and they're kind of getting away with raising their rent versus us giving them a gut check, like, hey, why are we raising this rent? And maybe prove to us like the definition or the reason why you're raising this rent. So anyway, I
Definitely can look into that.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Now we'll go to Councilmember Peterson online.
Okay, just so I better understand with the layering of federal, state, and local funding here, if somewhere down the road the federal funding goes away, does that mean that everything else falls apart and these programs will have to dissolve as well?
It definitely would be, I mean, it is the biggest, it is the funding for our home rehab. Yes. I have no indication from my HUD rep right now that there's any concern of CDBG not being allocated. It does provide leverage for other opportunities as well, depending on where that is. But yes, I mean, the vulnerability whether it's state, local, or federal, without funding streams, we may have to reduce programs, yes.
Okay. And then just out of curiosity, if you had more money and less strings attached, what would be the next priority items on your housing wish list?
Would be definitely the seniors that we're most concerned about right now, simply because we're the large percentage that is at that up to 30% AMI, and they have probably the least means to supplement their fixed income.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Any other questions from council? Seeing none, next is council's consideration of proposed resolution number 2026-70. Will the clerk please read the proposed resolution by title?
Resolution number 2026-70, authorizing the submittal of the City and County of Broomfield's 2026 Annual Action Plan to the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the resolution? Councilmember Ward.
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second? Councilmember Delgadillo.
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Right, seeing no discussion, council, please cast your vote electronically. Councilmember Peterson, please state your vote verbally.
Yes.
Thank you. Councilmember McKenzie, please state your vote verbally.
Yes.
Thank you. All council members have entered their vote, and the results will be displayed on the screen. That passes unanimously 8-0. There are no mayor or council member requests for future action this evening. Is there any other business to come before the council from my colleagues or staff? There being no further business, the council meeting is adjourned. Council and borough will convene for the executive session immediately following this meeting. Once the executive session is complete, council and borough will adjourn and will not be returned.